This is Rick DeMassimo from Within the Limits podcast. Today, I'm joined by my co-host Doug George Canantillo, and we're also joined by Sheldon Gibson. Both are members of the Hiawatha Institute Board of Directors. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about some activity that the Institute is doing to revive a closed college in New York called Wells College.
Yes,
So we're going to kind of kick into it a little bit today and kind of talk about where you guys are going and what your activities are.
sure. I can summarize that, and Sheldon can add, is that we created the Hiawatha Institute. It's part of a long-standing tradition of the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois, to create a forum by which knowledge can be shared amongst the world peoples. The Confederacy, of which the Haudenosaunee is an extension, of course, was formed many generations ago to bring together the world peoples, and so that we could live in a state of ecological balance and peace. And there's very specific approaches to that. So the Iroquois people, the Haudenosaunee people, became instructors and teachers from the inception of the Confederacy. And in colonial times and blending into modern era, our people have been advocates. We've traveled the world, we've taught innumerable places, and we tried in some instances to create our own physical places where you could actually learn. One example is my wife, the late Joanne Shenandoah. Her ancestor was an Oneida leader called Shenandoah. And after the American Revolution, he realized there was a need to enlighten the American people as to who indigenous nations were. So he helped establish Hamilton College, which is located in Clinton, New York. And other Native people have tried to do similar things. Uh, in the 20th century, the late Cayuga Chief Jake Thomas started the Iroquois Institute, which became the Jake Thomas Learning Center. And we've also sent many of our good-minded people into various American institutions in order to provide them with access to our way of thinking and thereby revolutionize the whole approach towards indigenous reality. In 2011, the former chancellor of Syracuse University, Nancy Cantor, asked us to create a group that would revolutionize the way SU approached this discipline called Native knowledge. We didn't want to call it Native studies because then it gets to shoved off into a kind of an academic gray area. But she wanted to find a way to take what we know as Native people and blend it within multiple disciplines at Syracuse. So you'd have indigenous engineering, indigenous biology, indigenous fine arts, indigenous music. And so it would be relevant to the students, your normal students at Syracuse. And it would also provide us with the means by which we could have our instructors gain university status, and it would change the whole approach across the country, across the nation. Syracuse would set the standard. Well, she got terminated, and for a while, that idea, we had other responsibilities, Sheldon, myself, and our board members. But a couple of years ago, we began meeting with the president of Wells College, Mr. Gibraltar, and he indicated that Wells was willing to take on this responsibility. And so we made formal presentation. And last April, a year ago, he called us and let us know that Wells College was closing. Wells had been founded 170 some odd years ago, and for most of its life was a women's college. And then they went co-ed about 15 years ago, and the enrollment collapsed. And they simply couldn't attract the students that they needed. And by the time it closed, it was less than 200 undergraduates there. And he knew that it couldn't be sustained. So the trustees made a decision to close the college. And when we found that out, we said, well, this is an ideal opportunity, given where Wells College is on Cayuga territory, about 25 miles north of Ithaca, that we could realize the dream that we would have a native college. And people might know that there are 34 across the country on tribal colleges, they call them, but there's nothing in the East. And so we thought this was an ideal opportunity for us to have a physical presence, have a college, our own curriculum, in which the thousands of Native students East Mississippi could apply to. And so that's the work that we began. And it's kind of an extension of a dream that the late Vine Deloria had with Senator Inouye and some other dynamic people when I was a member of the board of the National Museum of American Indian. And we started with nothing, but we created that building that's next to the U.S. Capitol. And the second part of the dream was a national indigenous university. So we think that we can do this. And so we have submitted a formal bid to the Board of Trustees to take Wells College, preserve the ideals of Wells College, but it would become the Hiawatha Institute for Indigenous Knowledge. And then Sheldon can add to that.
We've actually worked with several different groups, also interested in Wells.
Yeah.
And as far as creating a college and having being accredited, we're working towards that as a goal. As Doug stated, there were a lot of things that we will present that will be fairly unique in a college setting. In other words, we'll be able to offer a degree, hopefully in the future, be able to offer a degree in Native, not just Native studies, but Native studies and culture and history.
Yeah. And
part of that, and he alluded to with Wells, was the Cayuga Nation. And the Cayuga Nation used to have a village there on that site. And this last fall, Doug showed up. One of the days I was there, I was inspecting the buildings, and him and a friend of mine who was also working alongside of me found a cultural item that was there that archaeologists would be interested in because it's still in its undisturbed state.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at that. We're looking at working with the town, the village of Aurora, the town of Ledyard, and the alumni groups that are also associated there. We're looking at making space for them because right now we're looking at the whole space, but we're also looking at working alongside the community. We've been in touch with the Attorney General's office, and they're very supportive of our progress, and we try to keep them up with our updates as far as the meetings that we've attended and the people that we've met.
Yeah.
And all of our goals are very similar. It's preserving Wells, also presenting our own venue, as well as looking at the possibilities of creating a bigger income for that village because it's a very small village. It's 250 people, full-time residents, and the school itself, when it was in operation, quadrupled the size of the town itself. But now that revenue is gone, and we're trying to bring it back. We're trying to resurrect it.
What is kind of like your business plan forward to make it a reality?
Yeah, we did have to come up with a comprehensive business plan that would be supported by the different groups and by the New York Attorney General. And so we did that. It meant that we had to physically examine the site and see if it could actually sustain our ideas. So Sheldon has an engineering background and was able to examine all the buildings there to see if it could accommodate this, our ideas. And they're in fair condition. Of course, it's going to take a lot of maintenance and care and money in order to just physically preserve that site. But it's in an ideal location. It's absolutely wonderful campus, probably the most beautiful in New York State. And we had to make sure that it could be adapted to our specific needs. So what happens if we do have an influx of 500 or 1,000 or 1,500 students? Can it accommodate that? Can the physical apparatus of the school sustain that kind of population? On site, there are two interesting entities. There's a local health clinic, the only facility within many, many miles of that area that we want to preserve and turn it into an Indian health center. And there's an elementary school called Peachtown that serves the community. They're both located on campus, and we want to make sure that those are sustained. But we want to expand them as well, because with the influx of new people comes more demands on the water and sewage systems and transportation. But we want to do that consistent with the values of the town of Aurora and with our own indigenous principles as well, which once we sat down with the different groups, we realized we're virtually identical. So that's the premise upon which we're moving ahead with this. But we want to offer something that is, again, unique across the United States when it comes to curriculum. We want to have a degrees in music and performance arts and multimedia, things that are not offered at any of the tribal colleges, but with a very specific Native component. We want to have a home base for the Haudenosaunee Nationals lacrosse team and other athletic events taking place there. We want to host the largest fine arts show in East Mississippi, outside of Santa Fe at Wells College. So the potential for income is significant, but it has to be done, in conformity with our ideals and in partnership with the local townspeople. And so that's very much a part of our approach to this.
It sounds like you guys have a really robust plan for the future of the school once it comes online, and to being able to help with folks. And you also, I imagine that you're also looking for Native professors as well to help with the education, with the plan. I think that's probably one idea.
Yes, and we do. Joanne and I, Joanne Shenandoah, my wife, we spoke to the Ivy League Native Students Consortium a few times about this idea. This is before Wells became potentially available, and that is, we should have a home base for all of these dynamic indigenous scholars, whether degreed or not. If they have a depth of traditional knowledge that they're willing to share, there should be a home. And from that center, we can then provide our expertise to schools across the country. So if you're at UCLA or Harvard or University of Miami, and you want to have a qualified Native instructor in a specific discipline, then we can provide that. And we do have dozens and dozens of Haudenosaunee scholars who are willing to come from where they are now, whether it's teaching in Toronto or Buffalo or somewhere distant. We want to provide them with the opportunity to come home and then be part of this new approach to Indigenous knowledge. And partnership, again, is critical to what we're doing. But you mentioned something else, is we're learning as we're going along here that the transfer of a college to our institute it's something that's very detailed and very exact, very precise, and very complex. And so we are learning as we're going along how to do this historical event.
Since you joined Hiawatha Institute in 2011, that was the beginning of the organization. How have you noticed since then? Like, have you guys have grown, and what kind of support are you getting from not just um, government entities, but maybe like non-governmental entities that could help you guys grow? Anybody want to take that one on?
Actually, back in 1990, I had finished at the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, and I came back, and I happened to run into Doug in Oneida, and he had just got. That was just after you got married, actually.
Yeah.
And Joanne and Doug and I, we were sitting there talking. I mean, I've known Doug since 70s.
Yeah.
72, I believe.
Yeah.
And the discussion came up that we should have an Indigenous college, Haudenosaunee College. And I said, well, why don't we just do it? And it took us what, 21 years to get to that.
Yeah.
20 years to get to that point where we became a 501c3.
Yeah.
And along the way, we got a lot of offers of support.
Yeah.
When we get a spot.
Yeah.
When we get a place of our own, that's when the support's going to come in.
Yeah.
And we're going to hold all of these people to this, because now we're on the verge of actually doing that.
Yeah.
And not only that, we have a spot that fits everything that we want to do as far as the college is concerned.
Yeah.
There's a capacity for online learning, distance learning. We will be able to provide that because the space is already there. The computer systems aren't in because those were all removed for the closing of wells, but it doesn't mean that we can't adapt to that and make it better.
Yeah.
We can pick up classes from Buffalo or Toronto.
Yeah.
Atlanta even. If we have instructors in those areas and they want to do a class, we'll be able to provide that in an online setting.
Yeah.
So we're not only looking back to our past and our history in the past and everything that's involved with that, with our culture, language, music, all of that. We're also looking towards the future and going to incorporate electronics and internet and online learning. So we're taking a long stretch here, but we've managed to meet a lot of people, and a lot of people are willing to support us when we get our place. We're working on that right now. We're working very diligently on it.
We thought about distant learning, like Sheldon said, years and years and years ago. And it was core to our proposal to Syracuse University in 2011 when we made our formal presentation there. And it is still the thing that we feel will give us the greatest impact, open our doors, consistent with our traditional Iroquois teachings to anybody that wants to follow that trail to its source. And so we expect that there will be people signing up for our courses around the planet, in Europe and Asia, everywhere where people have access. It will make sure that they have the knowledge that they're seeking. And it's something that's not exclusive. It's not what most people would expect when they come to a college level course on Native issues. It's something much more dynamic than that. That's what we're proposing. So we put our minds together. We came up with the most innovative, creative, Indigenous-based curriculum anywhere in North America. And everything is going to be offered on a degree track. So if you sign up for our course, one of our courses, that you will get college credit for it. Absolutely. And language is a key component. We want to make sure that students have if they want to pick up on indigenous language, then that'll be made available to them, because we think that's how we're going to contribute to our own communities, is by making sure that our culture and our heritage is protected. And so we're also going to create a national Iroquois archives as part of the school.
But anybody who's watching this, what is something that a viewer of this podcast can do to help support your organization and to support the goals of the new school?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Sheldon.
Hand it over to me. We have a website, actually, and I do believe it's still in existence. I mean, it's been there for a while.
Yeah.
I have to get back to you on that and
Yeah.
get that information to you in the future. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we do have that, and that's part of us working on this, trying to keep all of these strings tied together, because there's a lot of ends that are loose right now. And
Yeah.
we're trying to maintain all of them.
Yeah.
When we get a place of our own, then we'll be able to start to weave something out of it.
Yeah.
We do have a lot.
Yeah, we do a lot of postings as well with our courses, our curriculum, a model course. Once we get update on our website, so people will be able to access that and see if it's something that they will find of interest. But we are 501c3, and we'll provide information if people want to make some kind of tangible donation to the Institute itself. That it's all going to fall in place within the next couple of weeks.
Excellent. And then maybe down the road we can have some music and some concerts and some outreach. And that's something I'm looking forward to. So I just want to thank you guys for joining this program, but we will follow up with you continuously. So I just want to thank Sheldon and Doug for your time on this one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you, Rick.
Sir.
On